was on my walk taking snapshots. I hope you enjoyed the photos. I'm just taking snapshots of places around here and musing away on the mic. Some of the things I got to thinking about, so I made some notes that I want to share with you to elaborate on it a bit, because I think it's important, and knowing these things can help you better think about the predicament we find ourselves in now, and all kinds of social events and cultural events, and help you interpret why we go to war and things like that. So I'm going to talk about agency bias, unchecked interests, intangible interests, righteous outrage, glory and status, social signaling, things like that. Ideology, it's a huge one. Aversion to compromise, why we don't negotiate, why our diplomacy is getting worse and worse. Human beings and violence. Are we just naturally violent, Why are there soccer, football hooligans? What's behind that? But I'm not going to go into that in detail. But anyway, as an example, so compromise effect, the ultimatum game, that's a classic everyone should know about. More about the Hermann Goering's fighting aces and how he motivated these people and how it got them killed. But not in detail. There are other places you can go to and read anecdotes. Basically, if you search any of the stuff that I'm talking about online using whatever tools you have, you'll come up with tons and tons of references to this. None of this is new. So Cold Wars and proxy wars, ideology, why do people riot or rebel, and more and more and more. But anyway, yeah, if we look back at the Cold War and all the proxy wars in Africa and Central America and Asia that we were fighting during the Cold War, that the United States was involved with, and the Soviet Union. And you look at the proxy wars that we have now and that we're currently developing in and around China, and in particular in Africa, Central Africa, and Western Africa, and so on. It's just crazy. And one thing I want to make clear, like I said when I was walking, is that the United States is so powerful, it's so energy rich, and it has so many materials, and has such a powerful navy and military and so on, and economically powerful, that it can afford MMT, modern monetary theory. It can, with its central bank, it can print as much money, as it wants, and spend it on whatever it wants. So if it wants faster missiles and AI drones that don't need a pilot, that have algorithms to decide who to kill, it'll get them. Fancier, bigger, smarter, more high tech. And it has the capability to fight to bring those resources from around the world to bear. So it's an empire like no other in history. It's so much more powerful than the British Empire. And it has so much more power to wield in terms of sanctions and so on. This is one of the reasons why the BRICS are saying, we really want to try doing things our own way. Is America going to say, oh, okay, let's see how that works out? My friend on Facebook said, they're all corrupt. So yeah, all the BRICS nations are stupid and corrupt and evil and whatever. So, good luck with that. But I would say, why doesn't America just butt out and see what happens? Well, they can't afford to. America exists to support its corporations, and so you're gonna get involved in the banana republics, and you're gonna get involved in any place where there's oil and energy and potential for the economic machine that is global, neoliberal, neoconservative, whatever, American corporations or international corporations, the powers that be, the players. And that's what the Navy's for, enforcing coded capital around the world, the rules-based order. So basically, it's my way or the highway as far as Uncle Sam is concerned. And you're in big, big trouble if you have something that Uncle Sam wants. So I'm going to put a quote in here that Henry Kissinger said. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's something like, if you're the enemy of the United States, you're in trouble. If you're the friend of the United States, you're dead. So I live in a country that America's not interested in. You know, the Iberian Peninsula, they could care less. We don't have anything that those corporations want. So they leave us alone. We can have multiple parties in Portugal, and all the different factions and ideological groups can fight it out. We can have elections and governments can change and all that kind of stuff. And it's not a big deal. Relative inequality, because, you know, the gap between the rich and poor is much less. People don't seem to need that much stuff here to be happy because they have each other. I used to joke in Japan and China because, you know, people lived in these big cities and these small apartments, and they couldn't have a lot of stuff like in America. You can have a huge garage full of tools, lawnmowers and stuff. And over there, they didn't have a space to store stuff, right? So I'd say, well, they don't have much, but they've got each other. A whole lot of each other because of the population and the density of the population in those cities. I lived in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Beijing for a while and traveled extensively. So I was in Singapore for a bit and Bangkok for a bit. These are big cities. And so, yeah, they have a whole lot of each other, a lot of people, but not much room to store their stuff. Whereas in America, you can just drive out into the suburbs and have a 10,000 square foot house with a 10,000 square foot deck and a 10,000 square foot finished basement and a huge warehouse for your collection of Duesenbergs and Ferraris and antique cars and Mustangs and whatever you like. Walk-in closets with more shoes than Imelda Marcos and more dresses than Beyonce. And it's great. It supports the economy, economic growth, GDP. Of course, all the slave labor around the world is producing it. Anyway, there's a lot of reasons people think things are unjust and unfair, and so every once in a while they get angry and they get pissed, and they start to go at each other. It's inevitable. It happens all the time. You know, you can go back and read up on the later Roman Empire and so on, Byzantium, the internal feuds and fighting, the assassinations. It was a tumultuous thing, you know. Yeah, it's okay. You've got a Constantine and a Christian Orthodox Empire and so on, Eastern Roman Empire, but they're really mean to each other. And then how they fall, yeah, you can read a lot of books about how empires fall. But you look at America, Americans hate each other. I mean, you're red state or blue state, you're this or that, you're social justice, you're woke, you're whatever. And they go at each other relentlessly on YouTube and other forums and so on. And they can't stand each other. Hate sells. It's a big draw, right? So all of these competitions between this, that, and the other thing are amazing draws because people love outrage. So propaganda and manufacturing consent and all this kind of stuff, all these tools are well known by anybody with power. And they can stir up a hornet's nest, whether it's in Guatemala or in Chicago, just by putting the messages out there. And I think it's absurd, but it's useful. It really works. You blame Russia for the Russian bots that are getting Americans all riled up. You don't need Russian bots or aliens to rile up Americans. They're already riled up, and they've got the Crowders, and they've got all these people on the internet to stir things up. And they're all self-righteous individuals in their tiny little bubbles. And they're all free riders. You know, you don't like the technology, you don't like modernity, you don't like this, that, the other thing. We're all free riders to a certain degree. We all have collective action problems and so on. So I'm just saying, you might as well look at yourself and analyze yourself, how you think, how you feel, where those thoughts and feelings come from. Do a little bit of reading. It's always exciting and fun. And understand how you're being played, how you're playing yourself. I read this Patrick Lawrence article about newspapers. It's theater of the absurd. It's Eugene Ionesco stuff. It's rhinoceros. Everybody's turning into a rhinoceros, not a Republican in name only, not a Democrat in name only. They're all the same thing. But from the play Rhinoceros, where you're standing around, I feel like I'm standing around watching everybody in the world turn into a rhinoceros. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be the only human being left. I just think, this is crazy. What are people doing? But most of us just aren't aware of all these things that are at play, that are working on us, whether it's our cognitive biases or so on. My friend on Facebook, he's a jingoist. And I guess he thinks he's a patriot, even though he's been an expat most of his life and never lived in his country that much. Doesn't want to pay taxes and so on. But somehow the West can do no wrong, right? It's a champion. It's amazing. But the West, however you want to define it, and that's really squishy to me, defining the West. What period in history are we talking about? What grouping of nation states or tribes or philosophies? Are we going back to the ancients or something newer, you know, the new right, the neo-libs, whatever? What is the West? Consumerism? Disneyland? I don't know. Anyway, the West, you know, it's institutions that we all hate. It's economy that's gonna kill the world eventually because of material constraints and energy systems that have to change. And that all boils down to our changing our behavior and our values towards life on Earth and human culture, what we think, what we do. As long as we're on this trajectory of 3% growth year on year and the GDP thing and all that, we're headed for disaster one way or another. And people will look at me and say, oh, climate change, dude, William T., you just want us all to be poor. I'm asking you, what do you think it is to be rich? Think about that for a while. Do you really need a career that takes you away from your family and friends so you can buy more stuff? Or what? Is that going to make you miserable? Are you going to start shooting up, popping pills, drinking booze day and night? House of Cards, killing people, gangsters, boardwalk empire. What's a happy life, man? How much do you need? You get pain, and then you have to take drugs, whether you're Jordan Peterson or somebody else, and then you get addicted and it wrecks your life, and a leaky gut. Ooh. All these terrible things happen to you, but you don't believe in mainstream medicine because it's a hoax or it's evil or something, and you have to go to Gwyneth Paltrow for a fix. I don't know. It's all pretty crazy to me, but that's the way we are. So I think it behooves us to consider our thinking. You think you're a patriot because your great-grandpappy was in the war and had a lot of medals? That's why I want to talk more about Goering and his flying aces and stuff like that. How do you motivate people to go out and get killed? After 9/11, almost 190,000 people signed up to the armed forces right away because they felt righteous anger against that attack. And why wouldn't people? But it was also ginned up. It was encouraged. There was a lot of things going on there to create a war with Iraq for whatever reasons. There's tons of books I've read on that. And all these complex reasons why people thought they had to do that. And you can read Scott Ritter. Yeah, he was one of the weapons guy, inspector people. And, you know, there's no reason to go to war except certain people benefit from it. Qui bono, who gets paid at the end of the day, follow the money, cliche after cliche after cliche. But these things are cliches for a reason. After 20 years of war and nothing coming of it, you know, it goes away and the corporations say, look, we need these defense contracts. We need more war. You know, come on, dude. Let's go. How are we going to keep our special forces special if they can't compete? You know, if they can't get in there? You know, you can't just have these, you know, off-season training games. You got to get in there and, you know, kill some people and get killed and whatnot. So you have to come up with all kinds of good reasons to motivate people to do that, even though it goes against their best interest at the end of the day. And it kills them. And, you know, people vote all the time for this, that, or the other thing. We have a ghost in the White House. They're going to put Kamala Harris forward as the hero to do all the campaigning while Joe does all his complicated intellectual work to try to save the world and all that stuff. It's a joke, man. It's crazy. Anyway, that's my opinion. So hang with me for a minute and I'm going to go through these notes. It's going to be a long one, so I'll put some intermissions in there so that you can pause and come back to the video if you want to. As always, if you find any of this interesting or entertaining, please like and share and comment. Geez, what do I have to do? I guess to get any comments, I have to pretend like I know it all and tell you what to think. And then you'll either be in my tribe or out of my tribe, and then I can have my trolls and supporters and whatever. Or maybe I'm just a really stupid, boring guy. I really think maybe that's a high probability that maybe that's just it, you know. So I can't help it. Why do I do this? Why do I torture myself to talk about this stuff and record it and put it on YouTube? Don't I have better things to do? Anyway, I'm going to try to get through this and the game theory thing and call it a day. You know, after that, it's like pictures of the cats and stuff, and I'm going to focus on writing and spend a lot less time on this kind of thing. But if you do appreciate or want to hear once in a while as I curate the world on my website, globehackers.com and cospelon.eu, you know, you might want to go there and just see what's happening and read something and click on something, retrain your algorithms so that the Oracle will send you different information than you're used to getting. You know, the ads pushed towards you. Maybe you'll get some heterodox or some other ideas coming across your screens that challenge your thinking a bit, and maybe you can open your mind and be a little bit epistemically humble and take a look at it, and it might help you grow or learn something or fortify your own position or change. You never know. Anyway, okay, I've rambled long enough. I'm going to go into these notes.